Hi, my name is Caroline Scrip. Here's my ID. I'm going to be talking about teen dating violence in regards to family violence. So, what is teen dating violence? It's a type of intimate partner violence which occurs between adolescents and teenagers who experience physical, psychological, threatening, sexual, um, any type of abuse between their partner and them. So it's like intimate partner violence with adults, but primarily teens and adolescents. Um, what is teen dating violence? This can include physical violence, such as beating on someone, hitting them, slapping them, stuff like that. Sexual violence, forcing them to do sexual acts, stalking, going to their house, stalking social media, tracking their location. Verbal violence, saying they're stupid, worthless, stuff like that. And emotional and psychological violence. Um, this typically occurs when their partner is gaslighting them into thinking they're the problem, they're the stupid one, it's not their partner's fault. So there's different types of teen dating violence and the accessibility of it. A big part is social media, which we see today. Um, everyone has access to Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, all that. And that can be good, but it can also be really bad if they have someone who is stalking them, just does not like them. So teen dating violence can occur, of course, on social media, in person. In person, I feel like we don't experience as much because social media is so prevalent. But in person, this can include verbally yelling, saying they're mean, just spreading rumors about them. Cyberbullying is a big one. A lot of unwanted things are on social media nowadays and can cause a lot of issues. And most of the time, they are not true. It's just for attention and just trying to hurt someone. Oh, and leaking photos is also a big issue of teen dating violence because they'll force their partner to send them explicit images. And then when they don't listen or try to get away from them, they'll leak them to force them to stay with them. Other examples include gaslighting, as I talked about, pushing, shoving, using a weapon, choking them, blocking them from leaving, um, abandoning their partner, say they get mad, they just drive away without them or leave without them. Threatening to commit suicide goes into gaslighting. If a partner is starting to realize that this isn't right, there's red flags, and they say, hey, I want to, their partner will most likely be like, well, I'm going to kill myself then, and threaten to commit suicide or hurt them and their family. There's many risk factors that are involved with teen dating violence. This can occur through childhood. If anyone is exposed to trauma in childhood, that increases their risk of being abusive or accepting abusive behaviors from friends, family, partners. If you have been previously victimized or bullied by friends or family or peers at school, you are more likely to fall victim to teen dating violence and getting yourself into that cycle. Intergenerational transmissions of violence, if there's been a history of an abusive family member, say like your grandpa was abusive to your dad, and then your dad was abusive to you, things like that. It just keeps the cycle going of abusing your children. Community violence occurs in schools, in sports groups, recreational groups, um, outside of school. Um, just your peers ganging up on you and bullying you, basically. Any trauma. So if you experience abusive tendencies from your parents, went through a divorce with your parents, um, experienced psychological and physical abuse, such as being hit, being beaten, not being allowed to go outside by your parents. That can also set up a risk factor for you to get into teen dating violence as a victim or a perpetrator. Especially if you have been around parents that have been alcoholics, you'll find that's a norm in your life and not see it as a red flag. When you are with a partner, you won't say anything, you'll think that's normal for them, and then it just starts a cycle of, oh, they're a drunk, they're going to be abusive, it's fine. So if you are antisocial or shy, this could prevent you from speaking out if you are being a victim of teen dating violence. You're less likely to tell someone. If you participate in peer pressure, this is also a big one. Your peers around you will make you do something like drink when you don't want to, do something with someone you don't want to, commit a crime even, and they don't let you live that down, and then will bully you if you do not do it. And if you do it, they'll probably take pictures and share it on the internet. And if people have been dating at an early age, they find that they can go to partners easily, and basically just they're basically being used. It's not for an emotional connection, it's physical, and that's never gonna end well. So the effects of teen dating violence are losing confidence, getting a sexually transmitted infection, possibly from the other partners we're sleeping with if they're gaslighting you, becoming depressed or even suicidal and feeling isolated. Typically, teen dating violence occurs in a cycle. So everything will be fine, calm phase, but then something just happens where the tension's building and building and building. That leads to a violent event happening, such as a physical event, sexual event, emotional event, sexual, just any event that's gonna have unwanted contact. And then they're gonna say it's all fine, and they're gonna have a honeymoon phase, and the cycle's gonna keep repeating and repeating. And they're also slowly gonna get you introduced into their violent tendencies and see how much they can do before you crack. So they're gonna keep going little by little to make the violence worse for you, and you cannot escape. So while there are consequences of the victim, there are consequences of the perpetrator. This can include being arrested, obviously, in jail time. They'll be unable to attend college. They'll feel shame and guilt. They'll isolate themselves and probably become depressed. That's what they get for being violent towards their significant other. While they do probably get depressed, they brought that upon themselves. So it is very important to educate schools, kids, teenagers, even adults about teen dating violence and what it is and how to recognize it. I think school programs would be a great way to introduce what is teen dating violence and how can we see that? Like, how can we see red flags? I think this should be taught early on in elementary schools, not as specific, but being like, if someone's hurting you, tell someone. And I think it should get more in depth in middle school, especially in the high school. I think counseling programs should be made available to these teenagers who are victims. They should have someone to go to and not feel embarrassed. Help groups, big one. I found that in doing my research for the paper, I found that teens felt that they did not want to go to professional counseling or with their family. They preferred that they go somewhere where someone's experienced the same things as them and feel that they can relate to them more on an emotional level and not on a professional level. Doctors' offices should also definitely have something to talk about with their patients that are teenagers. At least at my old pediatrician, I had to fill out a piece of paper talking about if I was dating anyone, have I been abused, stuff like that. And I think that they should definitely talk about that with patients more, even though patients are not going to tell the truth half the time because they're being gaslit. Um, but definitely the doctors should see signs of potential abuse, potential bad situations, and get them the help they need. In conclusion, I really do think that teen dating violence has become a lot of a bigger issue in the past years, just due to the explosion social media has had on the whole internet. Through the pandemic, we were on our phones constantly. Social media is a big, big, big thing and expanding every day. I do think programs need to be implemented for teachers, students, doctors' offices, anything that just deals with the general public. I think needs to be wary of signs of someone being abused, and definitely needs to show them what it is, red flags, and how to get help. Doesn't necessarily have to be teen violence. It can also be adult, but it's more important to show teens what dating violence can look like so they don't get stuck in that cycle. That's my resources. Thank you, and I enjoyed having your class.